Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got full rockin' my gun out there.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Oh, this hard goddamn work being this good.
One more again, see what I take on your front side, I swear.
You ain't my daddy, are you?
There's gonna be consequences and repercussions.
What time is it? Game time.
Okay, welcome again to the Don't Be Blasé podcast. We're coming to you live from the House of Pain, otherwise known as Snap Fitness and Adelaide CBD. I'm your host, B. Karen Weiner, joined by nobody this week. But before we get to that, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Larry and Lad. Go see the boys in Region Arcade, get yourself an awesome coffee and listen to some pretty sweet tunes. But for now, on with the show. Now, Stephen, not here this week. He's a bit sick. He's had to have the week off, and I think it's an epidemic with Steve. You know, he comes in, does a show, does a great job. You know, I like to trash Steve, but he does do a great job. But every now and then he loses an argument so badly that he needs an extra week to rest and recover, recuperate, and he's not very good off the cuff, Stephen. So every now and then he needs to take an extra week to formulate a response and to be able to come back at me. Because as we saw last week, or as we heard last week, when you get that long pause out of Steve, that means he's pretty much shut up shop. And I know right now he's listening to this on his way home from work and he is steaming because he's probably thought of a comeback, but he hasn't come in to record it. So, unfortunately for Steve, he's going to have to wait another week. But you won't have to wait that long for more content from myself and Steve, because any of our Adelaide listeners, and there are at least 7 of you, we are doing the Adelaide Podcast Festival again. So half of today's show is basically just a promotion for the Fringe. So we have the Adelaide Fringe going on right now, and our friends at Ozcast Network run a show for the Adelaide Podcast Festival. You can get tickets through fringetix.com.au, and the event is tomorrow night, Thursday, the 21st of February. We will be at the Elephant Wheelbarrow Pub. The show starts at 4, doors open at 4. Now, there is going to be podcasts galore from the Ozcast Network. There's going to be a whole bunch of shows on throughout the day or throughout the evening. And yeah, you get a free beer on entry through Young Henry's, who are a very, very fine brewery out of New South Wales. Little side note, everyone knows my love of all things free and discounted. And Young Henry's were at the Adelaide Beer and Barbecue Festival, and have been for the last few years. And the first time I went up to them, they used to have a token system. You give them 1 token, you get a little sample of your beer. You give them 3 tokens, you get a full glass. Now, they give you a little third of a glass for the 1 token. Now, I went to Young Henry's stand, ordered the natural lager, gave them 1 token, and the blokes half filled it. I'm thinking, well, maybe I've gotten lucky here. Went back there, same thing. I said, I'll grab a full glass this time, and they just took 2 tokens off me. So I'm getting discounts. So all of a sudden, they're on my good side, because everyone knows the cheap bastard that I am. You get on my good side with some discount, and I'm going to plug you to the end of the earth. The year after, I went back there, saw Young Henry's. I'm like, right, they're my boys. I'm on here. And not only would they continue to give me the discounted beer, but they also had extra serve of food on their table when I went up to order 1 round of beer, and they gave me free food. So forever, this company, this Young Henry's, this brewery, is always going to be in my good book. So you're going to get a free can of beer from those bad boys when you come into the Adelaide Podcast Festival. Now, Steve and I will be doing a late show. We'll be doing it live. We're on stage at 10 p.m. though. Now, this is usually way past my bedtime, and let's be honest, if Steve's been at the pub from about 5, he's going to be pretty boozy by the time 10 o'clock rolls around. But if you do want to come check us out, like I said, Adelaide listeners only, we will be at the Elephant Wheelbarrow from 10 p.m. Thursday night, 21st of February. But for now, we're going to get back to the rest of the regularly scheduled programming, which is going to be about the Adelaide Fringe. Now, it's Fringe season in Adelaide at the moment, which is always an amazing time of year. Unfortunately, so many people come to visit our great city, and they come at Fringe time, and they think that's what our city's like all the time. Now, it is a little bit of smoke and mirrors. It is fantastic what we have set up during the Adelaide Fringe. We have the Adelaide Festival running at the same time. And we also have some really bogan V8 car race that comes through for a couple of weeks. But for the most part, this is the most exciting time to be in Adelaide. Unfortunately, in about a month's time, it goes back to being pretty quiet. But we like it that way. That's the way our Adelaide people like to do things. We cram it all into one little space, and then we just pretty much go into hibernation for the rest of the year. But the Fringe is on, and one of the things, like I said, I'm a fan of all things free and cheap. And I've been lucky enough to get a lot of free and cheap tickets to a lot of Fringe events. It's sort of my thing every year. I try to get as many tickets because I just like to see a lot of shows. Now, I will see all and everything. Like, I'm not really, like, I'm not just I'm just going to go see some stand-up comedians, this and that. I'll go whatever's showing. Basically, it's either, if it's a choice between seeing something live or watching TV, I'm going to take live every day of the week, even if it's substandard entertainment. But so far, I've been coming up with the goods. I mean, Friday night, me and Satan have been hitting the garden a fair bit, and we went and saw the Best of the Ed Fest. Now, this year, it's 3 comedians from the Edinburgh Fringe. There's an Irish guy, to be honest with you, pretty poor presentation from my behalf, but I forgot his name. And let's be honest, wasn't the greatest comedian. He had a lot of the sort of real tired premises of making fun of the Australian accent because it sounds like a question at the end. So I was like, nah, mate, that one's been done. And the other comedians on the show probably should have given him the Iggy. That wasn't the route to go down. So he lost the crowd quite early, and he never really gained them back. But it was his first time in Adelaide, first time doing Australian crowds, so I think he may have been a bit nervous. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. So the Irish guy to start off with wasn't great. Next was a kid from the UK, Kelsey Von something. He's a UK kid, but his background apparently is Portuguese and Swedish. So very odd surname, but hilarious. This kid had, he was 23, but had the poise of someone who's been doing comedy for at least 10, 15 years. He was great. He commanded the audience. He has some, a few dirty gags here and there. Nothing too bad because the comes out halfway through his set that he's a Christian and a virgin. And it's one of those things where it's not said like that to play for the laughs. It wasn't just cheap jokes about that for the sake of cheap jokes. He actually had crafted a really good set. So like I said, they get 15 minutes each based with these Best of the Ed Fest and that sort of all those sort of combo comedian shows. And he was really, really good. So I definitely recommend checking him out. And the last one was Jimmy McGee, who I've seen several times from the UK. He is always just a classic. He's just if you had to, you got the wily old veteran on any sort of sporting team. The guy may not be the best player, but he just knows how to get it done. That's how I would describe the comedy of Jim McGee. You're going to get a laugh. The time's going to fly by. You're never going to look at your watch. You're never going to think, oh, what's going on next? He just delivers. It's not the funniest thing you've ever heard in your life, but you've never going to walk away disappointed. Jimmy McGee is just absolutely solid as a comedian. I've seen him several times. He's played the Best of the Ed Fest and done the Adelaide Fringe the last few years. And like I said, that's one of the shows that one of my friends promotes. So I always get tickets to it every year, and I was very, very impressed with his work. So if you are heading to the Fringe, Best of the Ed Fest gets a big tick from Speed. Now, the great thing about being sort of at the Fringe and that sort of thing is the people that you bump into. And I happened to bump into an old friend of mine, a guy I went to primary school with, went to high school with. He's one of my best friends growing up. His Cambodian family adopted me throughout most of my childhood. But he saw that I was at the garden, and he sent me a message and said, hey, what are you doing at 11 o'clock? Do you want 2 free tickets to a show? Answer naturally being, yes, I will take anything for free. So we got a few tickets to this show called Circumcision. Now, this was a little bit of a cheeky circus show. So they're trying to go for a little bit of an adult audience, trying to play up, being a bit sort of risque, a bit edgy. But it was very, very good. I mean, it was a good, honest circus act. It had the hula hoop girl, had the sort of the clown, juggler, comedian sort of gimmick second, and then, a couple of the strength sort of, displays that you'd expect from a circus show. There was a cheeky nutcracker sketch where the 3 dudes were dancing in the nude with just hats covering them, and then eventually they all lose their hats and had to tuck it back and dance around. I don't want to ruin the show, but it was very, very funny. So yeah, I've got 2 tickets to go see that one, and that was great. Now, one of the funniest things about that is anyone who's been to Adelaide, or anyone from Adelaide listening, even our overseas listeners that may have visited or used to live here, you will know there is about maybe 1.5 degrees of separation between everybody in Adelaide. That's just the way it is. Everyone knows everyone through someone. It's just, and being a guy named Spee, it's kind of hard because everyone remembers my name. But I got called on stage because, I am the shy retiring type, and, I don't really like the spotlight being on me. I love it. But I got called up on stage to help old mate with his juggling technique. I had to get the big 10-foot unicycle up on stage. So he called me up, I'm standing there holding the unicycle. He calls another guy out of the crowd, and as he does, I'm looking over at Satan, and she's mouthing something to me that's like who this person is. I have no idea what she's saying. So all of a sudden, this guy comes around the other side of the unicycle. He's standing face to face to me, and it turns out to be the father of the bride of the wedding that we went to 2 weeks earlier. So as he's popped around, he's kind of looking at me like I look familiar. I'm like, yes, I was at your daughter's wedding. How are you, mate? And then he starts shaking my hand, and he's almost dropped the unicycle. It was a good little moment. But it was just one of those really, really funny Adelaide things where, you know, you can go to a show that you didn't plan to and bump into like, not only an old school friend, but someone you've just met a couple of weeks ago who's a friend of a friend of a friend, and everyone just knows each other. It's the beauty of Adelaide. You know, so they're two shows I'll definitely give a big tick to. If you are heading to any of the Adelaide Fringe, go see Best the Ed Fest, go see Circus Shizen. Now, Saturday, myself and the lovely lady went to go see it was more of an interactive event. It was a show called Wet Sounds. Now, that does sound a little bit creepy. I'm very aware of that. Every time I explained to someone I was going to see something called Wet Sounds, I did get a few sort of sideways glances and raised eyebrows. But it was it's a somewhat of an experience, to say the least. It was supposed to be held at the Adelaide Aquatic Centre. So the whole premise was the sound changes shape or whatever. Like being underwater, it changes the how sound is perceived to the ear. So the whole basic premise is there's music playing or there's like sounds playing, but you go underwater and it sounds completely different. So I was intrigued, you know. The lovely Satan wanted to go see that one, so I've got tickets for Christmas, and it sold out last year. So I thought, let's give it a bash. Now, unfortunately, this is the worst organised show I think I've ever been to. It did say on the tickets, get there 20 minutes early. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get changed before the show starts. Show starts at 8. So we got there at about 20 to 8, all ready to go, and the Aquatic Centre isn't even open yet. So we're like, okay, have we misread the tickets? Is it at the Marriott Aquatic Centre? We have 2 aquatic centres because, you know, we're just badass town. But no, we're in the right spot. And then after about 3 or 4 minutes, there's more people rocking up, and we're chatting to them. Yep, you've got tickets too. Yep, no worries. Okay. And it starts to get closer, and there's more people outside camping, and the natives are starting to get restless. And we're thinking, is this actually going ahead? Have they just sold us some false hopes and dreams? And it starts to get to 8 o'clock, and there's still no sign of the door opening. And there's no one actually inside. There's like a cleaner going around. We're like, okay, I don't think he's running the show. But yeah, it starts to get longer and longer, and the wait gets longer and longer. We start to get really nervous. Like at one stage, go up to the door, it's about 8:05. There's no one in there. And we start to think that we've been sold face tickets like the Fire Festival. Now, I'm just about to draft an email in my most passive-aggressive tone to the Fringe organisers who had sent out the confirmation for the ticket to say, wait, I want a refund. This is bullshit. Where's my money? And as I've just hit send, which is the greatest thing ever. As soon as you hit send, doors open, and the guy comes out and goes, yeah, it's this French artist. Come in, get changed, jump in the pool, the show started. It's like, you are kidding me, mate. Like, you have opened the door. Like, no apologies, no sorry, no nothing, no explanation of what's going to go on. Just go straight in there and get in the pool. So I've decided to whip out the old budgie smugglers that the lovely lady bought me for Christmas, just purely because it tends to embarrass them when I wear them, and you know I just look great in small underwear. So we jumped in the pool, and I've learnt 2 new things. Well, 2 things that I haven't known for a while. One, with my current body density, I sink like a fucking rock these days. I used to have a bit of float about me. Now it's just straight to the bottom of the pool. And 2, treading water for an hour, really, really hard to do. Now, we did have the old pool noodles there, but there was about enough for 1 per person. Now, I'm currently weighing in just a hair under 100 kilos, and 1 pool noodle not really doing enough of the trick. So I had to kind of tuck it under the armpits and kick the legs and hope for the best. Now, it was a very intriguing show. Other than the balls up at the start and the way it was organised and how shoddily put together it was quite an intriguing show once you got past all that shit and you got into it. So it took me about 5-6 minutes to get acclimatised to having to constantly go under the water, come back up, under the water, come back up, because, yeah, I just wasn't breathing well. It's been a while since I've been in a pool, And usually I just go for a swim at the beach, and I'm not really swimming. I just kind of stand in the water up to my waist and, get under the water a little bit, but not a whole lot of swimming goes on. So once I finally got acclimatized to it, it was very bizarre how the sound did change. So it sounded like essentially like some sort of horrible techno dubsteppy music above the water. But once you went under the water, it would change, it would soften the tone of that, but you could also hear like lyrics, like people talking. You could hear like voices and that sort of stuff. And it was the same music. There wasn't any speakers under the water playing something different. It was the same music coming through the water, changing shape in your ear and sounding completely different. So that was one thing that was a little bit fascinating. So it was an hour, and like I said, it was a very long time, and it felt better if they told us, this is when you need to get under, this is when you need to come up, this is, if there was a bit more direction on where the show was going, probably would have been a lot better. But, not going to fault it. It was a pretty solid show, so I'd definitely recommend it. Probably don't worry about getting there early, because I don't think they're going to ever open on time. But it was an intriguing show, and I'm glad that we went. But it was just very, very interesting to find out, how things work and how sound will change with water, and also learning that I probably need to go and take some swimming lessons, because my fat ass doesn't float anymore. I'm just gonna, if I ever get stuck in a large body of water, that's gonna be the end of speed. But moving on, Sunday we had another show. Now, the beautiful thing is the friends and family list. If you can get yourself on the friends and family list, guess what? Free shows. So we had a show to go to called, we were looking at sort of the shows that were available in Gluttony, which is another one of the open air fringe venues that we have, which is possibly my favourite. It's just a good time in there. You got all the food stalls, you got a lot of wine. That's basically all I need, food and wine. But there was a show called Bent Bollywood. Now, it was an intriguing sound show. It was a pair of gay Indian lads doing sort of traditional Indian dance with Bollywood style dancing, and telling a little, like almost like a little love story between the two, and it was quite intriguing. Now, the first 10 minutes was like a really sort of intense traditional Indian dance, which was, if you have not been sort of accustomed to Indian dancing, you'd probably spend the first 10 minutes going, what the fuck is going on? Now, thankfully, I'm a man of the world, and I've had a previous girlfriend that was Indian, and I've seen her do her performances and been to several traditional Indian dance performances. And so I kind of knew what was going on. You learn to watch the hands, you watch the faces and that sort of thing. So it's not a whole lot of big body movements. It's more so there's little movements in between that you're sort of looking for. And it was quite intriguing. And then it sort of, it took a bit of a turn. It started getting a bit more high energy. And towards the end, bit of a weird finish. But, once I was at the end, glad that I got the free tickets. Probably not something I would have gone out of my way to pay for, but, intriguing show. This is one of those things that the good thing about the Fringe, it kind of gets you to step out of your comfort zone. You will go see some things that you may not have ever thought to see or ever wanted to see, but, you can go check something out, try something new, and there's always something on. And which leads me to my absolute favourite part of the Fringe. It's one show, and I've seen it probably about 50 times now, and it's Dado. Now, Dado is just a little, I can't even know how to describe, just a little comedy show. They have this thing called Doorway Cabaret. So in Gluttony, they have this little doorway set up, little mini stage, and it's basically just street performers to just come in there every hour on the hour. One of them jumps on stage. Now, this guy is just classic comedy, like it's pretty well a mute show. He doesn't talk a whole lot during the show. It's a lot of facials and, they're just a lot of the just basic raw energy. It's almost like, the classic silent movies sort of comedy, It's just a, bit of vaudeville, bit of slapstick, but just really good on it. Like, he runs these shows all day. Now, if you come to the, 3 o'clock in the afternoon show for kids or the 9 p.m. show, it's pretty much the same show. Like, he's not changing it. He's not adding like risque stuff to the evening stuff, because, there are some kids there still at night time. But it's just good, strong comedy, Like, and I go watch him every time, and I give him my $5, $10, whatever I've got loose, every show, end of every show. And I've never, even if I know the joke's coming and the punchlines and I know how he sets them up, they still make me laugh, Like, That's the part of the beauty of a good dad joke is repetition, repetition, repetition. You know what I mean? Like, dad jokes don't get old, they just get gold. And this guy has just nailed this act. You know, like I've seen him and he's been coming out the last few years. I've seen him every year. And if you just give him that 20 minutes, half an hour to watch him, he will make you laugh. He will entertain you, put a smile on your face. Like, he's even introduced a new gimmick today in his little prop bag. It's called the Shark. Now, he kept saying to everybody before the show started, no, bunch up, because people were standing in the walkway. He's like, no, come in tighter, otherwise you're going to get the Shark. Now everyone's kind of standing there laughing, ignoring him like they do with street performers anyway. And he just grabs the shark out of his plastic shark out of his little suitcase, walks around and just starts whacking everybody at the back of the crowd, and just like, move it, and just whacked everybody in, and everyone just sort of closed in and went exactly where he wanted them to. But it was just great, like, it was just a good laugh, that sort of thing. So it's all lighthearted, it's all fun. No one takes it too seriously, and it was really, really good. Like, like I said, you can go there. Hey, if you don't want to give him any money, you don't give him any money. If you want to be that scumbag, be that scumbag. But it was good to see. And finally, last night, Tuesday night, we went and saw the Next Gen Comedian special at Rhino Room. Now, Rhino Room's a big supporter of Adelaide comedy. They've been around for ages, and it's sort of like the hub of Adelaide comedy. And so they have an open mic. The Next Gen Comedy Night's basically a bunch of open micers getting their first attempt at doing sort of a live show. So, not a live show by themselves, but just doing one of those sort of showcase shows where they get to all do their own little 5-10 minute spot. Now, there was some misses, like as you expect from a few open micers and stuff. There was a fairly decent crowd down there. It was down in the basement, and we didn't really know what to expect. We thought, they're going to be some rookies, so we'll try to, you try to be nice. You try to, you're definitely not going to heckle. You're going to be a little bit more giving with the laughs. So the first guy, let's be honest, did struggle, and it's kind of one of the things that I do enjoy. It's sort of like, when you're watching, you don't want to watch a bad movie, but you want to watch one that's so terribly bad that it's funny, and this guy was drowning. And I don't know if you guys share the same sort of sadistic love that I do. I don't know, it comes from being a performer myself, but watching someone drown on stage is one of those just things that brings a smile to my face, because it's like, well, yes, you are drowning, mate. You are, your premises are not strong, your punchlines are not hitting home, and you are ballsing up every punchline. But you can learn from this, and so you just look at them and you just kind of go, I just wish I could just pull you aside and just go, tighten this. Like I said, I'm not a comedian, but I know something about performance, and that's the key. So you just wanted to tell them, just sort of like, tweak this, tweak that. And the second guy came out, had similar sort of issues. He had some good stuff, some good content, but just wasn't quite hitting home, and started resorting to repeating the punchline, hoping that was going to get a better response. I'm not going to fault anybody for giving it a good honest crack, and like it's good to see. It's good to see the young guys try it. Now, the third one up on stage, it would have been fourth one. Third one was a young lad who did sort of that awkward, I'm just going to go joke for joke for joke. Didn't really tell any stories, didn't build anything, just went gag, which, that works, and like I'm a huge fan of Rodney Dangerfield, and he spent his whole career just telling one-liners, and this kid did that same sort of deadpan, throw those jokes out there, make it seem a little bit awkward, but, it was a little bit smarmy, but it kind of worked for him. It was a good change of pace. So he won the crowd over. The MC that was doing it, he was a comedian too. He was getting everybody in, and he was doing quite well in between the acts. And the fourth one came out was Billy Duncan. As the only name I remembered, Billy Duncan. She is phenomenal. Now, this girl came out with the energy. She had the premises down, just great energy, great delivery on all her jokes. Like, she was really, really impressive. It was one of those ones as soon as we got out of the venue, I was like looking through the Rhino Room guide to see if she was doing any sort of solo shows, because she'd be great to see, I reckon, in her own sort of solo act. Not sure if she's got an hour worth of material, but if you could get a bit more than, like, we only really got 6 or 7 minutes out of her, but she's one of those girls I'd happily throw down $25, $30 to go see half an hour or 15 minutes. She was really, really good. I was very, very impressed with her. It was like a great little change of pace from the other comedians and stuff. but she just was hilarious. Didn't go any tired premises, didn't do anything sort of weak or washy. It was just everything sort of hit. And even some stuff like started to go down the realm of, oh, you guys use internet dating and stuff like that. It's like, oh, God, like the other 3 comedians had all touched on Tinder and stuff like that. And I thought, here we go. We're going to go down this tight. But then just dipped her toe in that one, straight back out, went on to the next thing. It was great. It was great to see someone sort of realize what'd been done and change up and then come out with something completely fresh and new. So she was really, really good. So I would recommend going to the Next Gen Comedians. If they do another showcase, definitely get yourself down to the Rhino Room. Like I said, all these things are available on Fringe Ticks, and just scan the website, fringeticks.com.au. It sounds like I'm getting promoted by them this week, but I'm not. I'm just a huge fan. I will always put my name behind, things that I enjoy. And the one thing that me and Steve always preach is getting out to live events, doing live shows. These things are, as guys that said, like, we used to be performers, Steve's been a promoter. It's one of those things that just makes, it makes life better. You get around a room of strangers and you're all connecting on the similar thing, whether it's, going to see a circus show and you're all oohing and ahhing together, or getting to like a serious live theatre production, or, just going to see a comedian, just getting rid of the stress of the day by just having a few laughs about some random shit, it doesn't matter. Just getting out and getting to live shows, because it's the big knock that we have in Adelaide. Everyone goes, oh, major acts never come to Adelaide. There's a reason why, because most people don't want to leave the house, but silly. And you've got this opportunity to go out there and see these amazing performers and, some world-class performers, and see them sometimes before they make it, sometimes after they've made it, but you're getting a chance to see people's passion. And that's what I love to see. And you want to see someone really passionate about what they do and what they say, and, showing what they love from their heart and pushing that out. And I recommend everyone go see it, especially at the Elephant and Wheelbarrow tomorrow night from 10 p.m. till 10:20. 20 minutes of out-and-out Steve and Spee, Don't Be Blasé fury. So that's what you want to do, guys. You want to see some passion. You want to see 2 guys going like toe-to-toe mentally. I mean, we've done it physically a few times, and it usually ends up with Steve picking me up over his head and throwing me on the floor. He's stupidly strong, that man. He may look fat and slow, but he is ungodly strong. But we will be breaking a mental sweat tomorrow night, and probably a physical sweat. I'm a huge sweater when I sit and talk. There will be stains in the underarms. That's something to look forward to. If you are going to come to the show, let's be honest, we can't see you because we usually have blinding lights in our eyes, but I can guarantee you there will be some sort of pit stain sweat. I mean, that's a weird thing to want to come and see the show. It's there if you want it. If you don't want it, send it back. Not kink shaming on this show, but if you want to see a sweaty man on stage, I'm your guy. And you want to see a probably fully inebriated man trying to form an argument about how good Michael Jordan is, you'll get that from Steve. I mean, we might be discussing something completely different and he'll just throw old Mick in there, but the chances are you're going to get some Mick talk. So, if you're into that sort of thing, come down and see us. Go see a show beforehand. Like I said, we're going to go see a show on Thursday, taking some friends. Like, we've been nearly every night. We're probably going to go every night, go out and see at least something. And the only other thing we've got a chance of is sitting at home watching Married at First Sight, which you will get a podcast about, by the way. I have thrown that out there. There is an episode coming up very soon with my friend, close personal friend, Adam Brooks. Me and him will be discussing all things maths. So keep a lookout on the podcast app for that one. I'm not even kidding. That's actually happening. Me and the Kingley from Dingley will be discussing Innes and Sam and Elizabeth and all that sort of wonderful madness that is Married at First Sight. Yes, I'm not expecting many of you guys to tune into that one, but it's coming. It's just there. Like I said, if you send it out, if you like it, take it. If you don't, send it back. Doesn't bother me. But that's going to be us for this week, guys. Only a short, sharp one, mostly on here just to promote the beautiful thing that's Adelaide Fringe and also our live show. The Ozcast Network guys do a great job promoting it, so definitely get around there. Support the guys. Support any other sort of podcast. You might find a new show that you're a fan of. You might get to find out someone new, find someone else to listen to, someone that's a little bit better than me and Steve. I mean, there's probably at least 3 people that are better than me and Steve. I'll give you that. But that's going to be us for this week, guys. For Steve Burrows, who's not here, and for Spee Caruana, This is Dobie Blase. We'll speak to you next week. Peace.
To support the boys, subscribe to the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And if you want to be involved, head over to facebook.com/DBB podcast, where you and the other 2 to 3 listeners can leave feedback and constructive criticism.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.